What's going on, fam? Welcome back to the channel. As you guys saw from the thumbnail, the Nike Superfly 4 is one of the most iconic football boots, and in today's video I want to share with you why they're so iconic, and of course share the incredible experience of actually wearing these football boots as well. So I managed to find these, very, very excited. They don't have a box, but they are brand new and they are absolutely stunning. Let's get into the tech features of the Nike Superfly 4. So the Superfly 4 launched in 2014 with the same colorway pattern basically as the Magista Obra, same kind of color as the Hypervenom 1 and the Tiempo Legend 5 Elite. All four launched in this kind of hyper punch crimson looking like red peach colorway with the Volt yellow accents, and then of course the Magista was like the opposite of that. These are a white with the Volt and pink color, and then of course the black knit fly knit here in the dynamic fit collar. Now the history of the Superfly 4 goes like this. 2014 comes around, Nike launch Superfly 4, Magista Obra 1. First knit boots to ever hit the market. Absolutely sensational launch. Absolutely crushed the World Cup. People were obsessed. You couldn't find them anywhere. They were so hard to get. And they just, I think, started one of the most insane revolutions in football boots, because now you get boots on a regular basis. Pretty much every manufacturer has a knit boot now of some sort, or has incorporated knit into their boot of some sort. Even a brand like Mizuno has put knit into the lacing system area of their Morelia Neo 4 Beta made in Japan's, right? So you really have this technology. The Superfly 4 in particular is a fully fly knit upper with the the flywire cables that run underneath the sole plate and into each of the eyelets, which you can really feel kind of wrapping your foot as you tie the laces tight. Each one of these eyelets corresponds to a different set of flywire cables that run down through the bottom and then up through this side. So similar to Superflies of the past and obviously previous Superflies, you get those flywire cables to really give you a nice amount of lockdown, because if they weren't there, you basically would just have a super soft fly knit upper that would provide absolutely zero lockdown. And that addition really does make quite a bit of difference. You have a dynamic fit collar, which was the other sort of design element that really did kind of make a splash in the football boot scene, because no one had seen a boot with a collar before. Everything was, you know, normal. There we go. It was very much normal, kind of like this, right? But then they added these collars, which essentially was supposed to give you more of a sock-like feel, which is pretty on brand for a knit football boot, right? You make a boot that is basically made out of sock material, and you put a collar on it, and it pretty much feels like it's a seamless transition between your foot and your leg, which was an interesting one. Now, from a performance orientation, the Flyknit collar was pretty flimsy in these first generations, both on the Magista Obra 1 and the Superfly 4, so it wasn't something that actually made any performance benefit. And by the way, in today's standards, the high cut collar of any boot doesn't make any performance benefit at all, in my opinion, other than potentially, well, yeah, no, that's not true. Okay, so collar is more of an aesthetic thing, and realistically, if you feel something, like just from a somatic perspective, like if you feel something around your ankle, maybe it gives your brain sort of the sensation of this feeling a little more seamless, which, fair enough. If that's how you feel, then that's how you feel. I'm not here to tell you one way or the other, but that's kind of the point of that dynamic fit collar as well. You have a double layer carbon fiber composite sole plate, which added a couple different features. You went back to 4 studs in the rear compared to the 2 studs in some of the other previous models, and then you added a few or different studs here in the forefoot area as well. So these being quite an aggressive sole plate, but backed off a little bit from Superfly 2 and Superfly 3, which were obviously really, really super aggressive. The carbon fiber sole plate on these was a bit more flexible, I would say, than previous generations of carbon fiber sole plates, but it did give a really nice amount of snapback, and of course the vibe and the look of these is just absolutely iconic. So for me, the performance benefit is there, obviously, from the carbon fiber, can't speak, perspective, but it is something that I think for a lot of people ended up cracking in certain areas and they just went away from it, probably because it was super expensive to manufacture, similar to what we saw with the Carbotex inserts in modern day Adidas speed boots. They went away from that probably because they're just really expensive to manufacture, but I think they look incredible. It's one of my favorite just kind of vibes on the sole plate. The Safari Superfly 2s and the World Cup Superflies are both carbon as well, and they just look insane. And that's why I think carbon fiber is like one of my favorite aesthetically looks, at least from a sole plate perspective. But the Superfly 4 is an iconic football boot. It only was around for, I think, 2 years. Before it turned into Superfly 5, which of course then just built on what Superfly 4 had. These are an incredible pair of football boots. I think this color is absolutely iconic. I'm very excited to try these on. I actually had the turf version of these, which I wore a bunch. I wore them until they absolutely died in the Total Volt colorway. And I had those for a bunch of indoor seasons back in like 14, 15, 16, which were like early college years for me, late high school, early college. So I wore them on like off seasons and in Christmas breaks and stuff for my indoor stuff. And I absolutely loved them. So the upper is going to fit really well. I think they're going to be a little bit thin straight out of the box, but I reckon I can break them in, and we'll see if I even get a play test in them. I know that sounds crazy given how hard these are to find and the fact that these are older, but honestly, we're meant to wear our boots, and so that's what I'm gonna do. So let's hop into the on-feet portion of the video. We'll talk about sizing, we'll talk about comfort, feel, and fit, and of course, should you buy them if you are able to find a pair of these. Let's hop into it. All right, fam, out here in the backyard with the absolutely beautiful Superfly 4. Now, it's been a really, really, really long time, like literally 10 years. I tried them on back in 2014, decided to go with the Magista Obra instead because they were a little bit wider fitting. These are absolutely sensational. The funny thing about those two football boots actually though, is that these technically fit a little bit too long and the Magista Obra fit too short, which is why I wore a 9.5 in the Magista Obra. And then I wore my true to size 9 US and it had a little bit of extra space in the it wasn't an AG, it was a turf model that I wore of the Superfly 4 for a long time for my indoor playing back in Seattle, and those fit totally fine. They had a little bit extra space on the end, but not too much to complain about. But these are a true to size with obviously the absolutely gorgeous carbon fiber sole plate, which you can see here. Very, very cool. So we're gonna get these on straight away. If you guys are interested in my favorite grip socks, which I do have on right here, they are WeFoot grip socks, and you can find a discount code for 20% off your order down in the description box below. And I forget how difficult and annoying these high cut collar boots are. Oh, goodness. Oh, there we go. Wow. Okay. It has been a long time since I've had something like this on. So as you can see here, look at that. So you've got a little bit of, there we go. A little bit of extra space, about half a thumb's width at the front, which is too much for what I typically prefer. But as these get a little bit wider and stretch out, I'll be totally fine. And they'll break in just fine. So I'd rather wear these than try to go super, super small or 8.5 US, just because the width would be far too small for me. But there you go. That is what they look like on feet. Really, really unique pair of football boots, especially with that collar area. And you can immediately tell the responsiveness of that carbon fiber sole plate. Although it isn't as responsive or peppy as the kind of first generation of these carbon fiber sole plates that you got back in the kind of the early 2010s with those elite models, especially for the World Cup and stuff. Those were quite a bit stiffer, but I think these definitely add to the experience of the football playing experience. And also they just look incredible. So on feet, you know, in photos of the pros at the top level and stuff, I just think that adds to, you know, the ability to market a boot if it's got like some crazy tech in it. There you go. So here we go. Superfly 4 in this absolutely stunning white, black, and kind of that peach and volt swoosh colorway. I think these look really, really nice. Now, would I have rather had the Vapor in this? Like if Vapor had been what the Superfly is, but just low cut, this would have been one of the best boots on the market, in my opinion. although I think this is an iconic design, and I think the Flyknit mid-cut collar provided just an absolute onslaught of kind of new football tech, I do not think these are, I'm just not a fan of ankle sock football boots. Although I did wear Magista Obra for a really long time and I loved those, I just think that this one, yeah, maybe I'm just not used to wearing it, but I just don't think they're just kind of annoying, you know? Like this material isn't like hugging my ankle, it's just kind of there. So it's just a little bit annoying, and yeah, I don't know, it just is what it is. But there's a full look at the Superfly 4s. As I said before, these are absolutely iconic. There is nothing you can say to convince me that these aren't, and the Magista as well, one of the most revolutionary football boot launches of all time. In my opinion, making a boot out of sock material, so to speak, as it was called back then, you know, making a fully Flyknit based football boot was revolutionary. Knit boots became the thing. As you can see, you know, nowadays every brand has a knit football boot of some sort, even if it's just partially knit. And it really is something that has totally ingrained itself into the football boot culture. And I think a lot of people really love knit football boots because of the comfort that they provide. Now, from the Superfly 4's perspective, you have the really thin Flyknit material plus a little bit of synthetic coating over the top, which you can see is the white material, obviously. And then you've got those flywire cables that go all the way around from each eyelet that really give you a nice amount of lateral stability here on the medial and the lateral sides of the football boot. You've got a pretty thin toe box area. Now, because I have a little bit of extra space here on the toe, there's about that half thumb's width, I do actually have a pretty decent amount of flexibility to kind of flex my toes. That being said, I am getting squished kind of here in this area. As you can see, it's sort of spilling over the side of the sole plate, which is that beautiful carbon fiber sole plate. Now, from the stud pattern perspective, they are a little bit aggressive, I would say, for AG. They're definitely, you know, not going to be my first choice as far as an AG sole plate goes, but for FG, they'd be perfectly fine, and I think they would suit really, really well for most people. I think they're going to be really nice, give you a ton of grip, and of course, with that carbon fiber, give you a little bit of lift. Like, they feel like, you know, you should kind of sit up on your toes with your heels about an inch off the ground. So, touch on the ball from the Superfly 4, very barefoot. I mean, save for maybe a synthetic version of this, you're really not going to feel anything more barefoot because the Flywire and the Flyknit does wrap your foot in such a nice way. It does really add to kind of the pizzazz and to the lightweightness of this football boot, which is absolutely fantastic. So for me, this is one of the best football boots of all time. I think it definitely deserves a spot on the GOAT list just because of what it brought to the football boot community and just football boots in general, and the way at how aggressively everyone moved towards knit once Nike came out with this one and the Magista Obra 1. So for that, it gets absolute props. These are staying in the collection forever, or as long as I am able to keep them, because these are fantastic. I might even train in them once or twice. I don't think I'm gonna do a playtest like dedicated video just because I don't wanna, you know, get these totally screwed up, but you will definitely see them on the boot wall behind me in future unboxing videos. So hope you guys enjoyed that video. If you guys are interested in more retro boot reviews, let me know down in the comment section below which boot you want to see next. Like the video if you got value from it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Do get that grip sock discount code down in the description box below if you guys are interested in any of those grip socks that they have on their website. Lots of great options to choose from. And as always, be awesome. Take care. I'll see y'all in the next video.